to City Life. Coming up today on the program, Mayor Bob Parker is here, Dan Coward from the New Zealand Fire Service, Peter Townsend from Canterbury Employers Chamber of Commerce, and we talk poetry with Phantom Billstickers. But first on the program, Reid from the EQC. Welcome to the program.
Hi Kanita, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. Now, following Monday's aftershocks, I firstly want to know about how your staff are, the ones who are out assessing properties.
Great. We've got a really fantastic system, a text tree that we use every time there's an aftershock of some significance. So by 4:30 we were able to account for all 400 people on the field. Bearing in mind though, we've still got 200 odd people that work in our building that we evacuated twice. So like a lot of Cantabrians, a lot of trauma there.
Okay.
Yeah, but back in today, so looking up.
Okay, so where do the latest quakes leave the EQC?
Well, new event, obviously, so if there's new damage, new claims. From our perspective, we're getting on with it today. We're going to keep inspecting houses. We'll pick up the new damage on the way through, help people lodge claims if we need to, but we just want to keep going. We've got to.
Okay, what about the status? I mean, do you start all over again or do you just keep going?
No, we've done 20,000 claims from the February event, so if people make new claims on those, we'll come back and re-inspect, but we're not going to revisit them. There's too much time and we want to see the people that haven't been seen yet. It's really important.
Now, before Monday's quake, were you happy with the level of assessment you'd done so far? Yeah,
we were. We were tracking along within the timeframes we'd given, but we had a bit of a chat yesterday to all our staff and we've put some pressure on. We want to see an increase in numbers. It's really important that people in Christchurch are really suffering, we understand that, and we really want to get through the process quickly. But we don't want to sacrifice the quality of our service either, so it's a balancing act to some degree.
Okay. Now, I do have some viewer questions from people from City Life viewers. Now, this person actually lives in Australia and has been watching it online, owns a house in Christchurch which has sustained damage. It was fully assessed by the EQC, but we are now awaiting for the report to be written. What are they, how long will that take? Okay,
good news. I think we've spoken to this before, the backlog around the multiple claim situation and how we have to cost and process. We've got that down to the backlog should be cleared by middle of next week. So then we're working from time of inspection to the time that they get a report within a month. Some more good news, today is the last day for the rollout of iPad, so all our staff will be equipped with the iPad, which is going to significantly improve our service and our ability to get the information to our claimants.
Okay. We had an EQ inspection at the weekend and was told need to secure top part of the chimney, the rest okay. Inspectors only decide by what they see. We know already more than they have told us because was awaiting an engineer's visit from September quake last year. What we would like to do to ensure when work done is correct and do not need to wait another 6 months is to get our own structural engineer in. Will the EQC pay for this?
No, if we've inspected the property, no we won't. All our teams have a trade qualified builder as part of the team, so we're pretty confident that the level of service and the knowledge we've got is sufficient to make those calls. If the people want to take the chimney down themselves, that's fine. We'd encourage them to do that, but they can only bring it down to the point to which it's damaged.
Okay. Many Cantabrians will need to make immediate action following damage on Monday. Can you please confirm that the $2,000 limit applies again?
Yeah, look, at the moment it does. We would really encourage everyone, though, to come through Fletcher's, the 0800 damage number. They have greater scope than that. They've got more than 1,300 contractors working for them now, and we're confident that we can get round a lot of these emergency works very quickly. So please lodge at 0800 damage.
Okay, having an expectation that people are not going to get very frustrated is unrealistic. In trying to deal with our claim from February 22nd, we've been told that the documents were being processed. Having phoned again today, it now turns out that the assessment notes were not even uploaded to our claim. Does this mean they're lost? No one seems to know or steer me in the right direction.
No, not lost. It's part of what we talked about before, Kanita, in terms of the process that we have to go through.
Yep.
Because we're dealing with multiple events, we have to cost the house from top to bottom. That takes time. Some of the scope of works we're now doing are over 18 pages long, and then we have to reconcile them against the previous claims to understand our liability and the insurer's liability. We're exchanging information with the insurers around that so that we know where the money sits, really. So that's the reason. They're not delayed. They're in the system. As I said, a couple of thousand left backed up, and we should be there. Okay. And again, iPad will help that.
All right. I have a well open under my house, rang helpline and was told no emergency repairs are to go ahead. I need this looked at by a plumber. Can you confirm when repairs will be started again?
No, I can't confirm when repairs will be started, but we have a dedicated resource dealing with wells that spring up under houses. So if you would be good enough to get the details, I can pass it on to our specialist team who can make contact and we can probably sort that.
Okay. EQC should will you be lodging a contents claim for possible damages to our household items in secure storage? We will not know until our house is repaired and we get our stuff back from the moving company whether there is any damage, and don't know how long we would have once claim is lodged to declare actual damages. Should we lodge a claim just in case?
Well, I think it's probably safe. Once the claim's lodged, it's open for good. If they unpack, when they get back in their home and they unload their stuff and there's no damage, then they can withdraw the claim.
Okay.
But there is a 90-day time frame for lodging claims. Outside of that, there's no cover with us. So really, yeah, I'd lodge one.
Okay, all right. Where are all the EQC hubs? I know there is one at Northwood. We should start monitoring these places to make sure they are working 24/7 and not 9 to 5. Reid?
24/7, driving nails in the dark, I like that. Look, they're spread right across Christchurch. There's 16 of them, 16 physical hubs plus winter heat hub that deals with the heat program. I can't name off the top of my head all the suburbs, sorry, but look, we have got an initiative underway where we're going to start running clinics in those hubs in the near future so that people will be able to approach EQC people and get some answers to the questions. Really excited about that. We think it's going to be great.
Any idea when this will be starting?
Well, we're hoping sooner rather than later. Perhaps by next week or the week after, I'll be able to give you a time frame.
Okay, good. And finally, well, there are more, but we just don't have time. I live in Gayhurst Road, Dallington, and I would like to know why we still have not been paid out for any of our claims that have been submitted since September last year, and why many of us still do not have chemical toilets. The feeling of being left to fend for ourselves is overwhelming.
Okay, well, we'll park the toilets because that's a council problem.
Thing?
Yep. But look, again, I'd like to, if we can get in touch with them, get their claim numbers, we can probably fix that for them. We did stop the payments on 22 February because of the multiple event, but they should have been underway again. So if we can get their details, more than happy to try and sort that.
All right, great. How is the EQC doing now? What's happening next?
Well, as I said earlier, we've taken the... we're just going to get on with it. We're going to keep doing our inspections. So we're into the moderate damage stuff. We've put some pressure on our guys to pick up the pace. We're really hopeful that iPads will help, particularly we think at the processing end, where we're looking to send paper and information to our claimants. We think it's going to be a major step forward. So I hate the term business as usual, but we're getting on with it. We just want to make sure that we get through these homes as quickly as possible so that people can be settled. They know where they stand, whether they're going to be passed on to their insurer, whether they're going to go to Fletcher's, or if it's minor damage that we're going to cash settle them. And that's really important to us, and we understand how difficult it is for everybody. So that's our attitude, just get on with it, get through it.
Yeah. What about people who now have lost all forms of heating?
Yeah, again, we can help 0800 damage, and again, the heating@eqr.co.nz email address. If they let us know, it is our priority. You know, we've had a bit of an Indian summer. We know winter's on its way. We'd really like to help them as quickly as we can. All
right. Okay, so the numbers to contact: 0800 damage,
yeah, 0800
0800 326 243.
Thank you.
0800 326 243. They can go online.
Yeah, at our website, which is eqc.govt.co.nz. Bit of a mouthful, but they can lodge their claims there, and they can also, I understand, lodge emergency works requests on that website. Okay, and also a really good place for interaction as well is the Facebook page. Yeah, apparently. Facebook.com/Earthquake Commission. It's a really good place. It's a good place for people to go and just put their questions forward and actually get answers from the EQC. Fletchers have a great website as well that will identify those hub locations and their process, and that's EQR. Just type in EQR, they'll find it. Okay, cool. And people can also email me questions for you for next week. Fantastic. Reid, good to have you on the program. Thanks, Kanina. And we'll be back after this break. Welcome back to City Life, and welcome to the program, Mayor Bob Parker. Good to have you here. Nice to be here, Kaneta. You're wearing your orange parka again. What does this mean? Well, we had to bring it out for the last couple of days, and I need a high-vis jacket when we're going into some of the areas we go into. So, and it was cold, so it does a great job. It's aligned, and it's kind of a friend. So, and hopefully I can put it away today. Yeah, hopefully. Now, another tough week in Christchurch. One that just reminds us, doesn't it, that we never quite know what to expect, and I keep saying to people when I go out and do public meetings and things, now please remember we're in the middle of an ongoing seismic event, and I even have to lecture my mum and dad, which is, you know, I'm not sure that's a good thing to do. Thanks, son. But what I'm saying to people is, look, you know, just need to think very carefully about what would you do when an event like this happens, because there's a reasonable chance that another one is going to happen. What are they saying now in the Canterbury area? About a 1 in 3 chance in the next few weeks of
a reasonable aftershock, probably around 6. Now, we hope that that doesn't happen, and it may never happen. There's a 60% chance that it won't happen. But you need to think about having that gear to get you through a couple of days if the water goes out. If you need to have a bit of emergency food, because if you haven't got power and you can't do your normal cooking, then there's an issue there. You need a torch. You need a change of warm clothing. And you need to think ahead about what would you do. For example, if you're in one of the areas where we've had a lot of seismic activity and you've got a car parked under the house in a garage or something, what happens if the doorway jams? So how about considering parking the car outside of the garage at the moment and maybe putting your emergency kit in the back of that? There's a place that you can go that is relatively safe, and you can probably warm it up with a heater. And just thinking about things like that is something that should be basics for us in Christchurch and in Canterbury actually right now.
Now, the Prime Minister has said that thousands of homes will go in Christchurch. What does this mean for our city?
Well, I think, most of us can see that the writing is on the wall for some of the particularly hard-hit suburbs. So there are two areas that, and I know no more than that, I have to say, and I wish I did. It's the information that we're desperate for, as well as thousands of citizens are desperate to get. But I think we can see that around some of the hillside suburbs, where we've had a lot of rockfall and a lot of danger from cliffs breaking and so on, that there are going to be areas that people will probably not be able to go back to. Now, we don't know that for sure yet, but seeing as we're in the speculation game, we'll have a look at that. But that's an obvious one to me. And then the other areas, low-lying areas, particularly around bodies of water or wetlands in some cases. And we've all seen the terrible effects of liquefaction out in the east of the city. So, and the complicating factor is that land heights have changed. So we know that back in February, at the instant of the 6.3, the Port Hills went up by about half a metre, just like that. And other parts of the city went down by about a metre. Now, that is also very important information. But the other factor, and the thing that's really taking the time and causing, I think, the heartache for so many people, is that the government need to line up all of the insurance companies. Because one of the important things is that we all need to be able to insure our houses going forward. If you can't get insurance, then you can't get a mortgage. A bank can't lend to you by law. So the issue that you then face is, what are you going to do? So all of these factors have to be brought together, and I actually feel sorry in some ways for Jerry Brownlee, and it's a huge task, lining up all of these different organisations, getting some sort of agreement, as well as matching the geotech info. So, most of us have a feel for where it will be, but we just don't know exactly, and that's the powerlessness of the situation, and that's where the pain really comes from.
There's been a suggestion that Bottle Lake Forest should be a place that should be built on. What are your ideas behind this?
I don't really want to get into speculating about where we could go yet, because again, that really requires that really solid geotechnical information. But from a ratepayer point of view, what we're all concerned about, or should be concerned about, is if we as a community invest in the infrastructure, we're cooperative, right? You and I and everybody else in the city is paying rates, either directly or indirectly. And we do that as a collective so that we have collective responses to water and wastewater and roading. And we don't want to be putting that sort of infrastructure in areas where it's going to constantly need or lives in the constant danger of replacement. It's technically true to say you could probably build anywhere, but it's not necessarily the case that we should be putting infrastructure anywhere, because those are the collective costs that everybody has to bear. So lots of work still to be done. Clarity is emerging. The very fact that the PM is talking those sorts of numbers indicates to me that we are getting very close to getting the announcements that we need.
Okay. Now, those who are thinking about leaving the city, Monday's aftershocks were the last straw.
Who didn't think about it for a moment in
Yeah,
there? So,
that's right. What would you say to them?
Well, I think that the people have to make their own call, and I would never criticise a soul for taking a decision like that. People will weigh up their circumstances, weigh up their mental health, they'll weigh up their view of the future, and they'll make a call, and it's absolutely appropriate. But I think for most of us, the reality is we've got a lot invested here. We've got our property, our family, our friends, our education, our businesses, hopefully still our jobs, and there'll be more jobs to come as we rebuild. So there is an economic and a social and an historic and a cultural connection that most of us have. And I think the vast majority of us will want to stay. If you ask people straight after a traumatic event like it was on Monday, people are often going to say, yeah, that's it, I'm out, sorry, I've had enough. When a bit of time goes by and you actually think rationally about, okay, when we get through this terrible period of our history, we're probably going to be in one of the more settled seismic areas of New Zealand, and I can give you the long technical answers as to why that is, and I won't bore you with that. So, you know, I think that for me, and I think there's another thing too, on a daily basis, you and I and everybody in this studio, we weigh up our own personal chances of survival. Now, what we've seen is some very big earthquakes, and no loss of life from the earthquake on Monday. I know there was a report of one elderly person, but they're now saying, no, actually that wasn't connected. There were underlying conditions there. And that's pretty extraordinary. I mean, you think of most places in the world with a 6.3 earthquake, and indeed it happened to us in February, there would be significant loss of life. I think that what we've got here is a relatively safe place. We're going to make it a lot safer. And we've got a great economy around us in Canterbury. We're the entry point for the island. So there will always be work and opportunity here. We've just got to get through this rough patch.
Now, finally, I want to talk about the eastern side of Christchurch. Are you out there? What's happening with the people out there? Are they being helped?
Yes, they are. But, you know, probably for some people there will never be enough support, because if you're traumatised, it doesn't matter how many people knock on your door, you can't get rid of that feeling of depression and pain. There will be times and places where people have, you know, missed out on something, and that happens when you're dealing with large numbers of people. You don't want it to happen. I was out in the Sumner area around Red Cliffs and into Sumner yesterday. I'm heading out into some of the other eastern suburbs, Dallington, Bexley, Avonside and so on, later on this morning. And just to see with my own eyes what's happening, to chat to people along the way. The feedback I got yesterday was really positive. I mean, despite what they've been through, the people that I was talking to were very, very positive. You know, pragmatic, looking at a long-term view, and they know it will pass.
If they need help, where can they go?
Well, the simplest thing is always, you know, there's always the council line on 941 8999. There are emergency lines, and if you're having problems getting through and it's a serious situation, you shouldn't hesitate in using 111. There are people there who can respond to whatever your situation is and direct you to the right place. Then there are the government helplines and a number of other lines that you can call. There's also, in all the different areas, local community groups. You've got groups like CanCern, who've got a wonderful network developed across the city now. There's plenty of help out there. And it's just a matter of, if you can't do it, ask your neighbour. Ask someone else in the street to maybe do a bit of work for you, a bit of inquiring. Call your local councillor or your local community board member. They're there to assist you as well. Okay,
and finally, how are you? How are you coping? How's your back?
I was a bit sore after, you know, I wasn't planning to be running around as much as I had to on Monday. And so on Tuesday, I had a few aches and pains, and I had a really early night, and just trying to take care of it. So I'm healing up really well, and just like you know, hundreds of other people who took a tumble, who had a fall. There are a number of those on Monday as well, and you know, it's not an uncommon occurrence around our city at the moment, but we're doing okay.
Mayor Parker, thanks for coming on the program today.
It's a pleasure.
After the break, we chat with Dan Coward from the New Zealand Fire Service. Welcome back to City Life, and welcome to the program, Dan Coward from New Zealand Fire Service. Now, how are things following Monday's aftershocks?
Yeah, settling down, I suppose, is the word we could use. We're still responding to quite a significant number of calls, more than what we would normally see, but certainly a lot less than the first sort of 24 hours, where we saw in excess of 280 calls in our first 24 hours.
What were the first calls that came to the fire service? Who were they from? What were they for?
So we had quite a few, a number of calls that came in really simultaneously. So a lot of things around, they'd seen buildings collapse, they saw large dust clouds, so they assumed that there'd been more building collapse. We got dozens of alarm activations from buildings where sprinkler alarms had gone off, sprinkler heads had gone off, and also the building alarms had gone off. So there was in excess of 100 of those that came in almost simultaneously. We also got reports of people needing assistance, people that were trapped by liquefaction, people that were suffering from medical conditions, So we assisted the ambulance service in terms of some of our response into that. And we also had a crew chopper in to investigate people being trapped in Boulder Bay. So, you know, within a very short space of time, it's not that we were overwhelmed to the point that we couldn't respond. We were at a point where because of the last two events, we were able to resource up for it.
In a situation like that, how do you prioritise what you do?
Yeah, look, the priority is always going to be life. Life risk is our first priority. So if we're responding to an alarm activation and we get a call where there's life threat, and we will actually divert those resources to where the life risk is. The other thing that we also focus on is critical infrastructure, and that's things around where we can, trying to sustain and keep those critical factors operating for the community. That also becomes a priority. From there, it's just a matter of working through bit by bit all the other jobs that sit in the system, from flooding, the alarm activations, the chimneys and those sorts of things. But again, critical life. If people phone up and say that their chimney's about to fall, it's threatening other property, other life, it becomes critical for us.
Did you get help from around the country?
Well, what we did was we brought in a number of the volunteer brigades surrounding Christchurch, so Rolleston, Lincoln, those sorts of brigades came in immediately. We called back a number of our staff who were on leave or on their days off. So we probably had an additional 30 staff operating probably within the first 30 minutes. And then within an hour we had two squads of urban search and rescue technicians on base ready to respond to, and we sent one of those crews out to do some of those investigations with a helicopter crew out at Boulder Bay.
Okay, how was Boulder Bay?
From all counts, there's been a lot of land slippage from what the people were telling me. However, there was no risk and nobody threatened, so they went, investigated, and were able to come back. So really, yet again, another positive story.
Let's look at the volunteer fire service fire brigade at Sumner. How are they?
Oh, look, they've done an amazing job, as have all of them. They've worked tirelessly. They've gone around and checked the streets, they've checked their community, and they've pretty much been operating on the hour, every hour during the last few days, just picking up workloads and working with people. Same with our Littleton. And, you know, for our Littleton volunteers, you know, we're working with them at the moment. Their building's now yellow stickered, like so many others. So we're working with them as to where do we need to house them and what we're going to do for their station and their community.
Now, you've brought in some graphs from Monday. Let's have a look at those, and if you could explain those to us, that would be good.
Yes, certainly.
So what's this one?
So this one here is just giving you a snapshot that within a very short space of time, this is the sort of geographic area. I mean, most people know the eastern suburbs, Sumner, in terms of where our focus was on, but it just sort of gives you that picture of how much of the eastern side split almost right down the middle of the city, where our workload came in really quickly.
So all those little red dots?
Sort of indicate a cluster of calls or a cluster of areas where we've responded to and undertaken a number of jobs. So in amongst all those red dots will be some 280 odd incidents that we've attended.
Gosh.
This one here, this is just a really quick graphic to show that whilst we've evacuated a significant number of people from the 4 avenues and within that red zone, that was initially within the first few minutes where are the calls coming from within the 4 avenues. So not a considerable lot, but certainly enough that sort of indicates, well, there's normally a couple of days' work in terms of clusters of work.
Wow. Now, what are those pink bits?
Oh, the pink bit just denotes different land masses in terms of grass,
okay,
building areas and some of those sorts of zones.
So were you surprised by some of the calls that were coming in at all?
Not surprised, I suppose. You know, from September, the Boxing Day and February, very similar types of calls. I think everybody is breathing a huge sigh of relief that there wasn't building collapses with people in, and we were back to the same position we were in February. So in that sense, yeah, everybody a huge sigh of relief, but at the same time, just going through that all over again, going through responding to just multiple jobs, the liquefaction, seeing some of those buildings come down, some of the houses, and just meeting with people and seeing the state that they're in. It's opened it up for a lot of people.
How are the firefighters? Because, I mean, I've been speaking with other people about this, you know, police and journalists, for example. They have to just forget about how they're feeling and just react to what's going on around them. I mean, how are the firefighters personally?
Yeah, look, a lot of them are doing really well. on the whole, meeting with our welfare team this morning, look, they're really pleased where the majority of the brigade is at. But there are individuals that are really struggling, and that's because their personal life, their home's completely destroyed, and they're in that boat like so many others, not knowing what's going to happen. And it doesn't matter how good you are, those personal things will always impact or influence slightly your ability at work. So, we're really conscious of that. Our welfare team's really working closely.
Because we're all people, aren't we? We all feel the same things.
Yeah, and just wearing a uniform doesn't make you any more of a person than the one next to you.
That's right.
What it does change is public's expectations on how you're going to act, how you're going to react, and what you're going to deliver upon. So it is a really fine balance for the firefighters, working out their own personal life and then coming into an environment where our stations have suffered damage. We're not all in our normal work environment, and then we're going out into those communities and interacting with people that are in the same boat. So it's like you don't get a break from it. So it is pretty tough. But to hear from my welfare team that the majority of people are doing really well is really positive, and we'll just keep working at supporting them.
And finally, we don't have much time left at all, but I do want to talk about the home escape plans, because it's a really good time to be thinking about things like this as well.
Absolutely.
So we can go to fire.org.nz.
Yep, you can do those. And look, we've got some new information up there which we really encourage people to do, and that's in and around safety with electrical items in your home.
Okay, well, Dan, really good to have you on the program.
Thank you.
After the break, we chat with Peter Townsend. Welcome back to City Life, and I'd like to welcome to the program Peter from the Canterbury Employers Chamber of Commerce. Welcome to City Life.
Good to be here.
Now, following Monday's earthquakes, what does this mean for business in Christchurch?
Well, it was another knockdown. It was a step back that we just didn't need, but the business community, after everything it's been through over the last 9 months, is now so resilient, so sinew and muscle, that it's just getting up and going again. I think from a commercial perspective we'll be fine. What worries me is the psychological impact of Monday's earthquakes and the trauma that employees and employers are both facing, and the need for them to work constructively together to get through those processes.
Any idea how many businesses will now sort of think, this is it, I'm out, I'm leaving town, I'm going somewhere else?
I don't think many at all. I mean, we've been remarkably well surprised by the remarkable resilience of businesses, and one of the key issues there was post-February 22, the government put $200 million into the business community through the employment subsidy scheme. That impacted on 27% of our total workforce, and it gave businesses the opportunity to get up and running and get going again. And we just haven't seen the business fallout that we might have expected to see, and I don't expect to see it after Monday either.
Okay. What about the businesses that were, they trade inside the red zone, they can't trade at the moment?
Yep.
Where are they now?
Well, a lot of those are relocated. A lot of them, like me, for example, with the Chamber of Commerce, working from home. But most of the businesses that were going to relocate had relocated prior to last Monday, and they're just getting on with their business. You're seeing villages popping up around the city, and that's where they are. You can measure where the businesses have gone by how hard it is to get a car park.
Oh yeah, that is true actually. So how are things now? Was Monday at all a setback for businesses in Christchurch?
Oh, without doubt. I mean, there was a lot of having to pick up stock again and fix broken machinery and computers that fell off tables and things. But I wouldn't like to say we're getting used to it, but we're certainly able to respond very quickly, and our business community has responded quickly, and they're just up and going again. We've got Recover Canterbury, which is a joint venture between the Chamber and the Canterbury Development Corporation, with its call centre 0800 50 50 96, with its website recovercanterbury.co.nz, and with up to 50 business recovery coordinators that are all willing and able to get out there and assist businesses if they need us.
What are the sort of calls that have come into the call centre this week following Monday's quakes?
Mainly around trauma, staff trauma. I've got people now that don't want to come back to work because they're worried about their kids. I've got schools closed, therefore my employees won't come into work. It's those sorts of human relationship issues that have really come to the fore. It isn't so much about my turnover's down or whatever, it's staffing issues.
How are you dealing with those?
Well, we're dealing with it by encouraging employers to be really flexible, really accommodating, really understanding, and we're dealing with it by encouraging the employees to operate on a high trust. If they have got real issues, then of course they need to deal with them, but don't abuse the flexibility that is being offered by employers. employers.
Now, there was Recover Canterbury announced a couple of weeks ago that there was a fund being set up. Now, how many people have put in submissions for that fund?
Yeah, that's the Canterbury Business Recovery Trust. That was a fund that was seeded by government prior to last Monday, post-February 22, with $2.5 million. The business community is putting in a lot of money to that. We hope we can build up a fund between $10 and $20 million over time. That's designed for long-term support for businesses to optimise business outcomes. We've had about 500 to 700 inquiries for that fund, and at the moment some of those are being processed. Not necessarily a cash handout. We might provide professional support for a company that needs it and pay for that professional support. So I would encourage anyone that's interested in accessing those funds to go into the Recover Canterbury website.
Okay, and what's the focus now for businesses in Christchurch?
Focus now is to get things cleaned up and out of the way. I've just come from a meeting with regard to the central city. I understand there are now 150 buildings that are going to be demolished within days, and that's good from my perspective because we've got to move on. Our biggest enemy in this city from a commercial perspective is delay.
Okay. Any idea what those buildings are?
Yeah, I know a few of them, yeah.
Can you tell
But
us?
no, they're ones that were already damaged prior to February 22 by and large, but have been more seriously damaged, provide significant safety risks, and they just have to come down. They have to get out, and that'll be done quickly.
Okay, and if businesses want to get in touch with you, how can they get in touch?
Best way to get in touch is through the Recover Canterbury website, www.recovercanterbury.co.nz, or our 0800 number, which is 0800 50 50 96. And of course, if they want to talk to me personally, Canterbury Employers Chamber of Commerce, which is 3665
Okay, we'll find them in the white pages as well.
Of course.
Peter, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Now I'd like to welcome to City Life Inspector John Price. Now, what was Monday's response for the police after the earthquakes?
Oh, okay, yes. Well, the 5.5 obviously put us on ready alert, and we had received quite a few calls from members of the public with regards to things that were happening in their locations, and we were able to respond reasonably quickly to that. However, with the 6.3 that occurred shortly afterwards, yeah, there were more calls that came through. One of the good things I think that happens for Canterbury is we have both the police and the fire 111 systems in the same building, which is at Christchurch Central, and it means we're able to share information together across the both agencies and respond jointly.
What were the majority of the calls about that people made?
Okay, the majority of the calls were really regarding flooding and bridges out and the road connections. Also, there were some issues with some buildings that had fallen over, and there were a couple of calls we got early in the piece where people had been trapped at St John's Church.
Okay. What was the general feeling around the city on Monday after the aftershocks?
Oh, I think there was there was a general feeling of apprehension again and concern, which is natural. I think people reminded people of the February earthquake.
Yeah.
And yes, well, the city, of course, there aren't too many people in the actual city at the moment with the CBD. One of our major concerns was to make sure that those that were working in the CBD were evacuated out of the CBD, the red zone as we call it.
And I guess that is one of the main reasons that the red zone is the red zone, that people aren't in there for other buildings coming down.
That is so true. Look, the concern with the red zone is that there are a lot of buildings in there that are badly damaged. If people are in that area and they aren't taking the due precautions they should be, they could be easily, injured or killed. So that was a major issue for us and a major concern to get all the workers out and all the people that were in there doing legitimate business.
So was that quite easy to find everybody at that time and just get everybody out of there?
Well, yes, we had to send some of our police patrols into that area just to evacuate them and get them out. But yeah, it's one of those things. There are a lot of people working in there, contractors, people doing the assessments, people from EQC and from Sarah that are in those locations. They do self-evacuate themselves, but it was just taking precautions to make sure that those that were still in there did get out.
What's the focus for police right now?
Okay, the focus for us is really about reassurance. It's about high visibility. We've got an extra 140 staff in the city from out of town at the moment that are assisting our staff. One of the concerns there is obviously crime does go on, and we need to make sure that we are controlling that and suppressing that. There are a number of issues that are happening at the moment that are concerns for us. One is the continued use of alcohol, and people are self-medicating, and we understand that, but there are issues that people choose to drink and drive, then they put other people at risk. The behaviour that's occurring in the nightlife, which is now occurring in other parts of town, is often fuelled by alcohol.
Okay. And what are people's attitudes like right now?
Attitudes towards? Towards,
well, the police, I suppose.
Oh, towards the police. No, look, the most 99% of people's attitude towards the police is fantastic. They're great members of the community. They do a fantastic job in their own right. There's always going to be a small element of people that aren't as supportive of police. However, we'll take a zero tolerance when it comes to behaviour that's antisocial, where people are breaking into houses and committing burglaries of victims of the earthquake. That's totally unacceptable, and we take a zero tolerance, and so do the courts around that sort of behaviour.
Now, reassurance patrols, tell me about those.
Okay, you're right. Reassurance patrols are what we call our trust patrols. That's all about getting out to those areas that are affected by the earthquake, high visibility, so that people know the police are out there, that we're able there to assist and to help people if need be, and also to give a presence during the day and during the night.
And there's an increase in family violence?
Yes, unfortunately, that's one of the things that does occur when there's a stressful situation, is often we see an increase in family violence. We've done a bit of research into natural disasters and the consequences of that on the social structure, and family violence is one of those areas that it does escalate, and we can understand why that's happening with people have issues, you know, they may have lost their job, uncertainty about their house, uncertainty about the future, and that stress then comes out in violence in the home, and that often involves children as well.
Okay. Finally, I was speaking with Dan Coward from the New Zealand Fire Service earlier about the fact that, you know, how are the firefighters doing and how are the police officers doing? They are human as well, and they're experiencing these aftershocks too. How are they going?
Oh, right, yeah, look. Yeah, our staff welfare is critical to us. Our people are the most important asset we have, and unfortunately, yeah, we represent the community, and our people are suffering. A number of our staff have had their houses badly damaged. A number of people are also finding it hard to cope with the current, you know, ongoing aftershocks and the uncertainty that creates. But hey, we've got a great team who do a wonderful job, and I, you know, cannot thank them more. We're so proud of the efforts of our own staff, both after the February earthquake and the consequence of the aftershocks that have occurred after that. So now we've got a great team. We're sticking together. We're there to serve our people, which is the community of Christchurch, and we'll continue to do that and do that to the best of our capability. But also a bit of a plug, you know, for those staff that have come from out of town. They've left their families to come into an unknown environment for them, and they're doing a great job keeping the rest of us going.
John, thanks for coming on the programme, and thanks for what you do.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you.
We'll be back after this break. Welcome back to City Life, and I'd like to welcome to the programme Ruth, Todd, here to talk about this beautiful book, Christchurch. Now, you're not the writer or the illustrator of this book.
Definitely not, Kinnear.
So what is your connection with Gwenda Turner?
Well, Gwenda, I do a lot of interviews on Plains FM and with our book programme right through the 1990s and on now, and Gwenda came in one day with a children's book. It was called The Builder's Cat. Beautiful illustrations. She was an illustrator, a graphic designer, and illustrations. She wanted real people, real children, real animals, real events, and those were her children's books that were very popular, but I think she wanted to do something on Christchurch. She'd come to live in Christchurch when she was about 19 from Australia, and this was the result. And she worked on this for a long, long time. And when she came in with this book towards the end of the 1990s, was a dream come true,
Yeah.
really. It was such a treasure, and I think it's more of a treasure, and I congratulate Penguin for reprinting it now, because this is the kind of book that people can give as a gift, because it's the old Christchurch that we're losing, and you know, the buildings here and the stories of the buildings. That's what I found too. I mean, I didn't know all the detail. I haven't lived in Christchurch all my life, but you know, when you look through some of the sections, and I love the way she's done it in sections, all about you know, the 1905 opening of the electric tramway section, and all the stories about that. I mean, I didn't know anything about that, how they celebrated that in 1905, and then famous picture of 1916 there. And it looks quite a vibrant city in 1916
doesn't
in the
it?
square, and let's have our trams back, people might be saying.
That's right. What are your other favourite pages in the book?
Lots of favourites. I think the original municipal chambers, our City Otatahi on Oxford Terrace and Worcester Boulevard, where I'm hoping that will be saved and rebuilt. I think that's a gorgeous building.
It is a beautiful building
it's
there.
a Samuel Hurst Seeger one. And again, that was, he had been to, I think he'd been to Europe and came back with a different idea for architecture. And it has all kinds of little gables and arches and,
Sure does.
and turrets, and that beautiful debating chamber. We use that room a lot for events with writers now, and really missing that space with the beautiful stained glass windows. And so I don't think I had kind of registered till she put this book out, the history of these places. And again, if a lot of these places won't be there, this is such a remembrance to have, and you know, memories for, especially for people who've lived here a long time, I think, and for people who come here. I've certainly bought one to a friend in the States who visited Christchurch a couple of years ago.
Oh, really?
You know, and she said, "Oh, I can't imagine what Christchurch is like," and so I've sent her a copy.
Oh, that's
I'm so
lovely.
glad it's been republished.
One more page that we can have a look at.
Probably Cranmer Courts, which I've been driving past and looking at, sadly, the former normal school. That's got memories for me because I did my post-primary teachers' college here.
Oh, did you?
In the old days, and that's now, you know, it had been developed into lovely apartments for people. That was always a vibrant building with lots happening there when it belonged to Teachers College before they went out to Ireland. And then but it is looking a little bit sad at the moment, so I'm not sure. I don't know what's going to happen there, but hopefully some will be saved.
Now, the Christchurch Writers' Festival, can you give me an update with that?
Well, we've cancelled 2 festivals, Canetta. So we're going for September 2012.
Okay.
That seems a long way off.
It does.
But we're also going to have some events during August and in the Hagley Park, in the Dome, and in the Crystal Palace with the Arts Festival.
Okay.
We're going to have, on August the 21st, we're going to have the Crime Writers Award, the Nio Marsh Award, because that has to happen annually, and this is only the second time. And so we want to have that. So that will be an award to the top crime writer, New Zealand crime writer from last year.
Wow.
And we've got Tess Gerritsen and John Hart, American writer, who I don't know so well, but I've read Tess Gerritsen quite a lot, and they're going to be here that day to celebrate with us. And of course we don't know who the finalists are yet, but there's 8 writers in the finals, and it's going to be great.
All right, that sounds good. Okay, so Gwenda Turner's Christchurch. Now, where can we pick these up if we would like to buy a copy?
Well, all the good bookshops that are open will have
I've seen one of them myself.
Yes, I think everyone will have that book.
And we have 3 copies to give away, so you can email me, canetta@ctv.co.nz, canetta@ctv.co.nz, or give us a call, 3777 033, 3777 033, and we'll pop you in the draw. Ruth, really lovely to have you here on the programme.
Great. And we need to mention perhaps the donation to the Earthquake Relief Fund for every copy sold.
And great. That's great. Thanks for pointing that out. Thanks for coming on City Life.
Thank you.
Finally, on the the program, I'd like to welcome Jamey from Billstickers. Now, before we get into why you're into poetry at the moment, what's Phantom?
It's a poster company, so we print and put up posters all around the country, programs, postcards, flyers, those sorts of things, into cafes and on street poster sites for shows and products, that sort of thing.
Cool. Now, you're into poetry at the moment.
Yeah, we're in
Tell me about this.
full poetry mode.
Yeah.
Well, a few years ago we started a project where we're putting out some posters that aren't selling anything, they're just poems. And it's kind of grown and gotten a little bit out of hand, so we've put up poem posters all around the world. They've gone up in places like New York and Glasgow and New Orleans and Seattle and Paris and all these sorts of places, as well as around the country in New Zealand. And we were due to have our phase 6, our 6th batch of these come out on May the 13th, and the launch was going to happen in New York, but our preparations were kind of munted a little bit, as with so many things at the moment. And so we decided to bring this launch back home, and we're doing it in Christchurch.
So tell me about some of the poets that will be on the poetry on the billboards.
On the posters, yeah. Well, there will be 30 in this batch. There have been 26 in the that we've done previously, so something like 56 poets in total. The ones you might know about would be people like James K. Baxter and Hone Tūwhare. Kerry Hume is a favourite of mine, and she's gotten involved, which is really cool. Janet Frame.
Wow, some real classics.
Bill Manhire, Michelle Leggett, and a bunch of up-and-comers and ones that people will be talking about in reverential tones in years to come. Your people like your Ben Browns and your Tusiata Avias, people like that.
So in New Zealand, you're putting up New Zealand poets?
It hasn't been strictly New Zealand. It's been mostly New Zealand, just because that's what we know, and those are the people we can talk to really easily. But we've had people like former US poet laureate Michael Palmer involved, and a few different poets from around the world.
So are these long poems, or are they ones that you can just sort of see when you're driving past?
Yeah, well, the Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner wouldn't work. It doesn't mean that we haven't had people give us these epic odes and things like that, which we just don't really work on posters. Short poems do work better, just because you can make the font bigger so you can read it. So yeah, for the most part, they're shorter poems.
So they're up in Christchurch yet?
No, these ones are all strictly under wraps. They've been printed at the moment.
Yeah.
And then they'll go up, they'll be unveiled on Friday night at the launch, and then they'll go up all around the country following that, from Whangarei to Invercargill.
So this is a good idea, to sort of fill empty spaces.
Yeah, I mean, we're printing and putting up posters anyway, so it's not arduous for us to do this.
Yeah.
Although getting poets to sign off on their artwork and their biographies and things like that is obviously a lot more work. But no, it's pretty. It segues nicely into what we do anyway.
So is this for spaces that haven't been filled, like they can't fill that to pay for it?
Ideally, it would work as a gap filler. The problem is you've got to schedule it to happen, and you don't really know what your booking levels are going to be like. So sometimes it operates as a gap filler, and sometimes you've just got to block out the space for it. For example, we've got lots of space in Christchurch at the moment, because there aren't so many events happening, and with all the venues, so many of the venues having been damaged. But in Wellington and Auckland, things are absolutely pumping, and so we'll have to turn away work to do the stuff that we're doing. Okay.
And tell me about Friday's launch.
Friday's launch is at the wonderful Eddington Coffee Co-op.
Yeah, we love it there.
Yeah. All the poets that are close enough that can make it are going to be there on the night, and there'll be an unveiling of the next batch of posters, and poems will be read and coffees will be consumed.
So is this for the general public to go to as well?
The general public are totally welcome to come along, the more the merrier. And it just takes the form of a poetry reading and unveiling of the poems.
Cool. Yeah. So we should all just start looking out for these posters, these Phantom Bill sticker posters with poetry on it.
Yeah.
Just so we can relax into our days.
Take a minute, take a read.
Yeah. Jamey, really good to have you on the program. Thanks for coming to sit
Thanks for having me.
Now that is City Life for today. We have some tickets to give away to Seussical, the musical being put on by Selwyn House. You can email me, kaneta@ctv.co.nz, or you can give us a call, 3777 033. Now some good news, the importance of being earnest is going to be on Friday and Saturday night as well. They've extended the season because it's so popular. So you can get your tickets, you can call them 332 0039 332 0039. Now you can get in touch with City Life. You can email me, kaneta@ctv.co.nz, call me 3777 033, or write to me, PO Box 1100 Christchurch. And of course, CTV City Life is now on demand. Go to ctv.co.nz and click on demand. That's City Life for today, and I'll see you tomorrow.